Hey there, this is going to be a quick and dirty guide on how to do the fight skip glitch for Act 3, which will allow you to skip every fight after getting to this checkpoint on the map. So the only requirements for this glitch are getting to this checkpoint, and then you need to have at least one of these blue buff stations still on the map somewhere. It can be any buff station. It can be one of these. It can be one of the paw things in the photographer's area. It can be one of the recycling things later. Any buff station works except for these card selection stations. But there's an exception to that, and we'll get to that later. So all you need to do this glitch is to stand up from the table, sit back down, spam click on the buff station as you're sitting down, then stand up and sit down again. So it's stand up, sit down, spam clicking, stand up, sit down. That's all there is to it. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. Spam clicking, sitting down, stand up again, and sit down. So now I've done the glitch. The game thinks I'm in the buff station event, but I can still move around the map. So if I like click on this card right here to stick it into the buff station, the I can still move around the map. I could buff the card right now if I wanted to. But the benefit of this is now if I go to a fight over here, this will allow me to skip a fight. And the way that this works is once you finish buffing a card, the game says, okay, you're done buffing a card, I'm going to kick you back to the map, completely ignoring the fact that we're actually in a fight right now. So if I just pick whatever card, it doesn't matter what buffs you give your cards, because we're going to skip every single fight for the rest of the game, so your deck is basically irrelevant. So yeah, I'm going to buff this card. It's done buffing, and it kicks me back to the map, and I am still in the fight right now, is the interesting part of this. So if I stand up from the table, you can still see the cards on the table, you can still see the cards in my hand, you can still see the energy I have, the scales, all that stuff. So now if I sit back down, and now the route, you'll want to reference the world record for exactly how the route is, because I'm not intimately familiar with it. But the ideal route is to get as many buff storages as you can, go through each area, and then collect more buff storages as you go along. So you can use these as well. So like these little paw things in each area. Now if I want to show one special circumstance, he's gonna tell me I can't go back, but I don't care. So now if I go back up here, if you skip the energy cell pickup before you go to the checkpoint, you can use this as a buff storage as well, but there is a slight problem with using this. So I've stored the energy cell, but now if I try to go back down and go down the map, I actually can't click on the arrow because the energy cell is in the way. And so a way around this is to go up on the map over to here, then go to the card buff terminal. Now remember I said before that the card buff terminals, you can't use the fight skip with this normally, but what you can do is since I have the energy cell stored, I can then go into the card buff terminal, pick up the energy cell, and now the card choice thing is stored, and I can use that for a fight skip, and now I can move freely without the energy cell being in the way. So that's just one little quirk about the route early on. I'm gonna go over the rest of the route here in a second. Another thing you can do with this glitch is you can store multiple card buffs at once. So if you have an area where you're not going to be able to pick up any buffs along the way, you can store multiple ahead of time and then pick up more as you get later in the area. So I can store this one real quickly. Stand up, sit down, sit up, sit down. So now I have this stored, and now if I go over here, I can pick up this energy cell, store that, and then, like I said before, I can't go down, so I have to go up here, grab this, then pick up the energy cell, and now I have two guard buff storages as once. So one thing you kind of need to be careful on is you don't want to accidentally click on two cards at once, because if you click on, so if I click there to flip a card and then, well actually I don't want to click on it. But yeah, you just want to be careful not to click on two cards at once and accidentally cause any overlapping effects to happen at the same time. So I've restarted the save if you haven't noticed. And I'm going to just do a quick run through of here. Pick that card, and now I've skipped that fight. I'm going to go up here, store this. Storing this, skipping this fight, moving a little fast, but yeah, what I just did there was, as the fight was loading, I picked a card to buff, and as the fight was loading, the buff was going through its animation, and now just as the fight is finished loading, I have finished buffing the card, and now I'll get kicked back to the map. So I've skipped that fight real seamlessly. And none of this execution is optimal, so you can definitely be clicking earlier if you need to. Or you can be clicking earlier to start the animation sooner. We don't know the exact timing on how early you can start the animation. So yeah, this is where things start getting messy, because there's like, you know, cards on the board, there's your own card buffs you need to be aware of, your cards in your hand are in your way, and now there's this recycling event that's popped up and it's kind of in our way, and we have to kind of carefully select what we're trying to do. And yeah, always keep in mind you can always hit down to back out of picking a card. And yeah, like, this is where things are getting weird. So I just did the recycling, or the card trade event right there. So yeah, I'm actually not going to pick this up right now. I like I said, I'm not intimately familiar with the route, but I'm just going to... That's not what I want to show right now. What I do want to show is, if I go into this next fight... I'll go ahead and just skip this fight as well. But if I play a card, so I just played a card right there, even though the fight is going to be skipped right now. And yeah, so I'm skipping the fight, but I have a card on the field right now. So now when I go into the next fight here, I will have a card on the field, which will give me a slight advantage at the start of the next fight. But this is just for demonstration purposes. Normally you would just be skipping this fight with another fight skip storage. And yeah, since we've been skipping fights, the fights haven't actually been ending. So now my character has 4 energy, even though this is the first turn, and I still have all my cards in my hand. So yeah, that's just a side effect of this glitch. And so I'm actually just going to go ahead and quit out of this fight. And then quickly go back and grab one of those buff storages. One of those fight storages, rather. Buff storages, yes, that's the word. So I am going to come back over to him. And yeah, dialogue will get kind of overlapped in weird ways. You do have to be kind of careful, because there is like a slight risk of soft locking if certain dialogues act in certain ways. But pretty much the only place you really need to worry is the Golly fight. Alright, so yeah, you can use these vessel storages as fight skip storage as well. And if you're quick, you can skip most of the animation by getting to the fight before it actually starts. And if the camera gets locked in a weird way like this, just if you're able to click on a map arrow, go ahead and click on one of those and the camera will recenter. Or if you can't, just stand up from the table and sit back down. That'll also recenter the camera. So now we'll skip this fight. And like I said, this isn't optimal execution. I don't even know if this is the optimal route. So yeah, we can use these recycling things as well. Now I can stick a card in, recycle it. And so yeah, for some of these you're really going to want to click on them early because of these long animations. Like I've wasted like 9 or 10 seconds there just waiting on that animation. And now there is a soft lock here that you need to be aware of. I'm just going to demonstrate it here. Should work. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. But sometimes the game can soft lock right here if you have too many fight storages stored up. or fights, like if you skipped all the fights in the photographer's area, usually this soft locks right here. And the way to avoid that is just quit to main menu, and that'll wipe out any of the fight storages or fight skips that you've stored. So that will keep you totally covered. And that's about it. The only other thing I would say you need to be aware of is if you mess up on a fight skip storage, like say you store it and then like something terrible happens and like you like lose the fight, like lose a fight somehow or something weird happens, you need to quit to main menu. If we go back, the game thinks that we've already done this buff, so you can't redo it. So once you have that fight skip or that card buff stored, you have to write that thing out no matter what, otherwise you're gonna lose it. So yeah, I believe that's about everything worth covering. Like I said, if you are looking to run the game yourself, I would recommend checking out the world record route because it's probably changed from whenever I recorded this, and I'm not intimately familiar with it myself. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll add any additional details I think of later to the description. And yeah, feel free to join the Inscryption Speedrunning Discord. You can ask questions there as well. We can always help you out. So yeah, thanks for watching.